All right, continuing with assignment 3. In order to make this assignment work of this creaturescape, the most important thing is to simply use the best versions of your first 2 assignments. And what we use from assignment 1 is our Photoshop file, our final Photoshop file. Just reviewing quickly. And the reason we use that PSD file is because it has all of our different component layers, that we can play with. Layering this in. And you are allowed to change up your landscape a little bit if you want to better suit the needs of your creature, as long as it's still your own landscape with at least 5 different references that are creating it. And then the main reason I like this PSD file is I also have this whole series of texture fills. It's kind of mist and clouds rolling in, especially that one, but just kind of overall texture fills that I can make use of because they're all different layers. And it's much like when Walt Disney decided to shoot its feature films, starting with Snow White, with multiple planes of glass that the camera would shoot for. That's what these layers are kind of built up on. So you have a foreground plate, and a middle ground plate, and a background plate. And your characters can just be inserted into that environment. So you're looking past some things before looking at a sharp in-focus character, usually in the middle ground, and then have the background be behind it. So that's the kind of illusion that this PSD file allows us to do. But we need a character that's nice and clean and is all clearly cut out on one layer, like that. And so instead of using the PSD version of our character from assignment 2, we use a new type of file for us, which is called the TIFF version. And because this is where your character is best designed, the TIFF version is also sometimes where we want to go back and fix our character assignment. So if I look at the PSD from assignment 2, and a lot of you are still kind of refining and perfecting your creature collage assignment, the PSD version of it has all the different components that come together to make your creature. And final clone stamping and all this stuff. But what we do to make the TIFF is we turn off everything we don't need, especially in this case, the background. So I have a clean cutout, but that background shows me how clean that cutout is. And then we flatten the image. Actually, we don't flatten it, because if we flatten it, it would fill in this empty space of the background. Photoshop uses the gray checkerboard to show us that nothing's there. If we flatten it, it would fill it with white, which is not what we want. Instead, we want to say layer merge visible. And it puts it all into one layer at the top. And then we delete all of the other layers, just select them and hit delete. And we save that as our TIFF. So I'll just do this as a test, since I've already done it once, to the desktop. By saving as a TIFF with LZW compression, it keeps its file size quite small, but it doesn't ever lose any resolution. It's what's called a lossless compression format, TIFF with LZW. And now it's all on one layer, so I can go in, and as a TIFF, I can make those final adjustments that a lot of you need to make to your creature still, especially when it comes to making the edges more believable. And this was the last demo on assignment 2, kind of softening the edges that need to be soft, and for things like talons, keeping them sharp where they need to be sharp. Now, once you bring your creature design in, you might notice some things about it. So right now I'm noticing that the claw, especially this one, is so strong and bright and saturated and colored that it actually distracts from kind of the cool coloring that I wanted to really be the focal point in the wings and in the tail and in the eye. So what I could do is take that lesson even before I bring it in and improve assignment 2 that way by simply taking that claw either in the PSD layer or in this TIFF layer and playing with its colors. In fact, I can do that with both of these groups of talons. And I can do that in a few ways. I always like to make duplicates and then make adjustments to the duplicates. But because it's already nicely cut out, I don't need to worry about anything except the color and the values at this point. First thing I might play with are the levels, and I might decide to deepen their levels so they're a little bit darker in the midtones. The next thing I might decide to play with is the saturation. Take that saturation down a little bit, so they don't look so shockingly yellow. I could even shift the yellow towards more of an orange if I wanted to. I can play with the overall lightness or darkness of them in hue saturation. And then I might play with color balance. And these are familiar adjustments. I can shift the midtones maybe a little bit more towards the cool side so they're not so glaring. And I can shift the highlights maybe a little bit back to the warms. And I can shift the shadows to the cools. And basically, because they're on their own layer, I can see, okay, is that an improvement? And yes, I believe that's a pretty strong improvement. And now I just use my soft eraser to merge them in. Kind of blend them with what I already have. See, as simple as that. And then here, just because I didn't take the most care erasing it out before I made my selection, I just want to make my eraser a little bit stronger than 19%, a little bit tighter. And just really make sure that those details don't leave any sharp edges. I also want to be mindful of any perceived outlines. Remember, believable things don't have outlines around them. These aren't drawings, these are composites. They're supposed to be fully believable in our three-dimensional world. So, I see a little bit of an outline there that I want to get rid of. Maybe a little bit of an outline there. But in order to take care of it completely, I have to first merge these layers again into one even layer. So to do that, I simply go up to Layer and Merge Visible again. Okay, now it's all one layer, and now I can go in, and it's especially important to pay close attention to where your creature is going to be touching the ground in your landscape. So these outlines around the claws, I need to address those. And without addressing them, it's hard to get a believable placement of the creature into that landscape without just hiding where they touch the ground. So making smart improvements to your creature collage that will help you overall with integrating it into the landscape. And what's interesting is I didn't really see the need for fixing the feet. I was blind to it until I saw it in an environment and saw how it read. So now I'm taking steps to learn from that. So if we save our files correctly and thoughtfully, we can always make these improvements as needed. We'll always have the information available to us. And to get really good at this stuff and really be an admirable professional and an admirable artist, when you see things that can be improved and you know how to improve them, you don't just accept them. You go in and you make the adjustments. Okay? And then, of course, at the same time, you always want to be mindful of the time you're spending, and you could work on improving things forever. So you want to make smart decisions. I'm not going to try to clean up every edge perfectly, but I am paying close attention to where they integrate with my background. Because I'd rather fix it here on the design of the creature that I'm going to print as an assignment. I'd rather fix it here than fix it in the creaturescape and just have all those mistakes still showing in assignment 2. Not making the very most of it that I can. And the more we practice these things, the more we try to understand what we can do to improve, the better we get at these skills. All right, so everything I just did, I did to assignment 2 to my TIFF file, and I can go to my history and see if I like all those improvements. No matter how many steps your history is set to record, and I like to have it record at least 200, you can always go to where you opened it and see. And that was the PSD. And now this is the finished TIFF file. And if I want to compare apples to apples, I'm going to add a layer to the TIFF file, which gives it a gray background, so I can really make sure I have some good edges. And that's working well. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm just going to steal, this is my test image, right? And I'm going to steal this part of it. The feet, all the improvements I made there. And I'm just going to copy that with Edit, Copy, Command C. And now I'm going to actually do a few things. I'm going to open my actual assignment 2, TIFF, instead of just the test. Because on this actual assignment 1, I fixed all the edges, right? But I didn't notice until I brought it into my background that the feet really needed work. So now I just hit Command V or Edit Paste. Whoops, and I copied it from the wrong layer. Silly me. Let me do that again. Make sure I have the right layer selected. Copy it, and then I can just paste it right onto here and then composite it in. And if I want help placing it, I can use the opacity. And to get it just right, I can use the arrow keys with the move tool to nudge it right into place. Like so. And then put it at 100% opacity. And that, let's see, looks just a bit off still.